Hello and welcome to the Career Coffee Chat live show. My name is Erin Urban. I'm a certified career strategist and executive coach. I help driven, experienced professionals remove career roadblocks so you can achieve more influence, impact, and income. And speaking of influence, I'm very, very excited. Really, really excited, ladies and gentlemen, to have Chris Coldonato on our show this morning to talk to you about how to build better relationships virtually. Now, this is a big topic on a lot of people's minds. Whether you are currently engaged in a workplace or whether you are in transition, seeking that great next opportunity, building relationships virtually in the digital space is somewhat intimidating and can be somewhat overwhelming for some of us. Many of us are concerned about whether or not we are doing the right things at the right time or how we can network with other people when we are in quote unquote isolated conditions and only engaging through a camera. So if you're just tuning in, please say hi, say where you're from. I'd love to see you and welcome you to the show. And if you have any questions throughout the show or if you're watching later, please feel free to pop them in the comments. I do see those and I will respond to them. If you've never seen my smiling face before, my name is Erin Urban or Coachy Urban. You can learn more about me down here at coachyurban.com. And what we'll be talking about today, again, is how to build better relationships in the virtual space. Because most of us are still working in isolated conditions or we're in transition and we're desperately trying to build our networks in virtual space over a camera. And for many of us, that is super difficult and a little awkward. So how can we get around that awkward feeling to have a genuine connection with other people? So I'm very excited to have Chris Coldonato on our show today. Now, a little bit about Chris. Chris is an experience, in fact, over 15 years of experience in talent development. She specialized in virtual facilitation and helping distributed teams connect and stay connected. In fact, Chris, this is second nature. She's been doing this for quite a while, and I'm very excited to have her on this show to share with us how you can also build better relationships virtually without making it a chore. And I'd love to welcome you to the show. Great to see you, Cornesia. Good morning. Great to see you tuning in from Spring. Amy, always great to see you. She's tuning in from Surfside Beach. Wait a minute, you're at the beach. And Patty, great to see you from Houston. Jesse, always good to see you. Melissa, great to see you as well from Spring Branch. Without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Chris Coldonato. Chris, great to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. We are all thrilled to have you on, and warm welcome on this chilly day to talk to us about how to build better relationships virtually. So for most people, Chris, it's a big intimidating thing. This virtual thing, we're not quite sure how to make it work. What is your first words of wisdom when it comes about someone who may be feeling like, I cannot possibly build a virtual relationship with anybody? That's just not going to work for me. What is your first word of wisdom for that person? Oh, Chris, we can't hear you.
Let's try this again.
Yes? There you go.
I am a professional virtual facilitator.
But technology doesn't always work in our corner, by the way. We were having issues earlier today, so.
All right. So let me repeat those first words of wisdom. I think for me, it's always letting people know you're not alone. This is a common feeling, and it is something that almost all of us, even myself, went through. But I think the thing to think about is it doesn't have to be as intimidating or big or this huge occasion. It really is, what are the things that you're doing daily that you can weave in opportunities to build these relationships? And once you start looking at it almost from a moment to moment, or what am I already doing where I can weave this in, I think that makes it a little less intimidating.
That's a good point. And Chris is a proponent of tiny moments. And can you share with us what you mean when you say tiny moments? What does that mean in the virtual space?
So when you think about, and a lot of people, you've heard the art or read the articles or heard it, Zoom fatigue. Everybody is adding on more and more and more meetings in order to make up for that feeling of connection. I can't see people when I walk into the office because I'm not in the office anymore. So we are defaulting to hosting more meetings and gatherings. What I like to do is take a step back and think about, well, that's really nice. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have the celebrations. But what can really make an impact are these moments. And I like to call them moments that matter. So think about the moment that you have with somebody, maybe on Skype or Teams or Slack, pick your instant messenger of choice. And is there something that maybe when you see somebody pop up online, you have a emoji wave, or you send them a GIF, or you just say, hey, how you doing today? That little moment right there, it sounds minor, but it can really start to build a connection, and it can start to build a personal one-on-one connection with somebody versus attending a large group gathering on Zoom again and again, week over week, where you may not have those opportunities to connect one-on-one. And if you think about it, your day and your week is filled with these little moments. And if you really start to tap into them, I think you'll be surprised at the difference it can make.
That's interesting because, when we're in person, we have that pass somebody in the hallway, or you see somebody at the coffee machine, or maybe it's a meeting before the meeting or the meeting after the meeting. Those are all very valuable. We get a lot of things done because it's not always necessary or advisable to speak up during the middle of a mass meeting. And that is one reason why so many people are reporting to me, hey, I feel like I'm much less productive. How can I get things done in the virtual environment without having to go to 20 big Zoom meetings? You're actually encouraging, maybe not even think of it, okay, I need to have another Zoom meeting or another Zoom meeting or another Zoom meeting. Maybe it's leveraging other technological ways to connect, like Slack or Instant Messenger or even email, text messaging. I think more and more people are available on their phones now, and making themselves available because they know, well, my office phone may or may not forward to my cell phone. So here's my cell phone. And so now we're texting more to other people that we work with or they're in our communities. So that's a great way to kind of recreate some of that.
Yeah. And what's happening is when you're passing each other in the hallway or you're having the meeting before the meeting. So you generally see this in offices where people will be chatting and actually chatting about maybe personal, but it could also be something related to work, and they're getting work done in that time up to the meeting. So it doesn't mean you have to create a virtual water cooler in your organization. What it means is, how can you recreate those moments of opportunity where you get to pass by people in the face-to-face, in-person office hallway? How can you recreate that in the virtual? And it doesn't have to be something that is really overdone and overcomplicated. So it may mean, when I first started working virtually, I actually scheduled time on my calendar every other day, 15 minutes at the start of the day, for me to walk my virtual hallways. And that meant everything from my enterprise social network to our instant message tool to see who was there. And it may be a wave hi, or, hey, did you go to that event we were talking about as we were leaving the last meeting? So that's how I started incorporating that, because I was lacking those visual and social cues. I didn't go into an office anymore. So that was my version of walking into an office, and it's paid off in the long run.
Yeah, and that's huge. And we think that we can't recreate, and it's not that you can totally replace, but you
Right.
through intentionality, if you're intentional with it. See, that's the thing. We're looking, we live in this society where it's like, oh, just give me stuff, just hand it to me. I
The
don't
quick fix.
hand it to me, just give it to me. Well, you need to be the entrepreneur of your career. So
Yeah.
in other words, you need to go out there and create this and be intentional about it. It's not just necessarily going to come to you. So instead of waiting for someone else to get around to figuring it out, why not be that person who says, you know what, let's use a Facebook group. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what that looks like, but some mode of not outside of the Zoom space, outside of the team space, whatever that looks like for you, that you can kind of say hi, just touch base with one another and have that morning chat. Oh, how was your weekend? Did you go to the play or did you go to the park or whatever, right? You can do that.
And to your point, it doesn't have to take a lot of, there is enough technology out there. You probably already have it either personally or professionally. So it's probably something that you already have that you can leverage. And I always recommend people start building the habit before they go buying new tech. So if this is something that you are looking to do in your organization or you yourself, take a step back and look at what tools do you already have, and are you actually maximizing those tools? Or are you looking for, to your point you were making earlier, we were looking for something to be, handed to us. There may not be a tool that solves it all. It may be already in your current tool set that, again, you either have as a personally or as an organization. So are you maximizing it to its fullest potential?
Right.
Maybe you should build the habit first before you then go buy the tech and see what happens. You may not need new tech.
That's right. I'd like to say good morning to Gail and Sandy and Dr. Suresh for tuning in. Great to see you this morning. If you have any questions as we move through our chat today, please do pop them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them. Some of you are either currently in the workplace or some of you are in transition, and I know that the experience is slightly different. So speaking about for those people who are in transition, who aren't necessarily going into workplace and don't have those, I would say, preset toolbox of digital connection ability set for them, oftentimes your network is over Zoom. Maybe there's a Facebook page or a LinkedIn group. How can someone who is in transition create those tiny moments that helps build relationships further? What are your ideas for them?
Yeah, so I go back to what tools do you already have? So let's take LinkedIn, for example. If you are leveraging LinkedIn, then what are the ways that you can connect with people through your normal interactions on LinkedIn? So instead of liking somebody's post, can you take an opportunity to really read and think about how might you use this and then share back with this person? What question do you have for them? Or is it simply that was a really great thought. I liked how you fill in the blank. So how can you be more intentional about that? If you see somebody post something, and again, it's just a quick read for you, liking, absolutely fine. But maybe you can then share their post and share why this resonated for you. So again, it's just thinking through what are those moments that you have and things that you're already doing that you can build on, and then you can take it to an even bigger level, which is then maybe you start expanding your network. So you start scanning. It's almost as if you were walking into a new office and you're scanning, who do I not know, or who maybe I should know? And you can do the same thing in LinkedIn or any, Facebook groups, whatever tool you're using. But then start thinking about, all right, well, Erin knows this person and I'd really like to know them because of XYZ. Maybe I reach out to Erin and say, Erin, would you be able to make a connection for me or an introduction for me? Because I'd like to know more about Susie's, work in manufacturing, because I'm looking to get into that. So it goes back to that point you made earlier and what we've been saying all along. You have to be really intentional about it. The opportunities are out there. First, you have to see what are you already doing and what can you leverage? And then think about how can you use the tool to help you make even more connections.
And it may help some of you tuning in this morning to hear the story about how Chris and I got connected.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great example. I have our mutual friend was on the Career Coffee Chat show, and she, during one of our pre-calls, was discussing, because I always ask, who do you know that I should know? And she said, no, you're talking about such and such. You really need to reach out to Chris. You two would have a lot to talk about. I said, great. Let's make the connection. So she did. And she made it through LinkedIn, I believe.
Yeah, she did.
So she made it through LinkedIn. Chris, meet Aaron, meet Chris. Mm-hmm. I know you two have a lot to chat about, yada, yada. We made the connection. We set up a phone call. We had the phone call. You can do this too. What I recommend is whenever you're connecting with somebody, even if they're a new person in your network, ask them, who do you know that I should know?
Yes, great question.
Yeah, that helps people start to think about, okay, well, now they know a little bit about you, what interests you, what you like, what you don't like, what drives you. Maybe if you're seeking a different industry, maybe someone in that industry that they know or someone who related to that industry, they can make that mutual connection. And by doing that, that expands your network. And here's the thing, we don't ever want to be a dead end. You want to be a bridge. So be a bridge, not a dead end. Continually connect people. So if they do the favor for you, think about what can I do for them to return that favor? And then the law of reciprocity kicks in and they're more likely to refer you or help you out in the future.
Yeah, and this works both in and out of the workplace. So think about this not just for LinkedIn and or any other social network externally, but you can also do the same exact thing internally. And that question you shared, who do you know that I should know? And that's a great way to frame it, regardless of what situation you're in, both in and outside. And if you are currently employed and you use that in your current workplace, great. Also use it externally. It is something I think we get too swept in our own internal networks. You have to build those external networks to gain perspective, to learn new things, to even broaden your reach so that you can bring that knowledge back and use it for your own professional development, but also for your organization too. So I think it works both ways, internal and external.
Absolutely. And you never know who someone might know. You never know where a connection would lead. So I would not encourage you just to toss away a connection because you think, oh, well, whatever your bias happens to be at the time. Always give that connection a chance. Not every connection will bear fruit. And know that the more people you connect with, start to build relationships with intentionally, your broader network will expand. And there's a really good reason why you want to have what sociologists call loose ties. Really quickly. I don't know, Chris, if you've heard of this, the value of loose ties in sociology. Maybe you can share with us your take on that before I start expanding on it.
So from my frame of reference, it's really so you have your close ties. And those are the people that maybe you're interacting with one-on-one on a regular basis. And I think of it from an organization. So these are the people I use to get work done all the time. My loose ties, those are the people that, they're hanging out on the periphery and I might interact with them maybe once a month, or we pass by in the virtual hallways and meetings or projects. But I like to keep a connection with them, even though we don't do a lot of work together, because I never know when they may become a strong tie. So it's just kind of an acquaintance, if you want to use that word. That's how I look at it. But I'd love to hear how, a little bit more, because I know I just touched the surface on that.
Yeah. So the value of loose ties is poignant when it comes to your career growth. In fact, most people, let's just say you're in transition, for example, you're not currently employed, you're looking for a new great opportunity, and you're currently working on also expanding your network in these very challenging COVID times. Of course, you're trying to do this digitally. And let's say you're reaching out to other LinkedIn, people you know, or people in your target industry. and you're starting to build your loose tie network, so that broader network. The reason your loose ties are more important for your career growth than those people who are near and dear to your heart, your good friends, those people who worked with you forever, that sort of thing. I'm not setting them aside, okay? But one reason why they are so important is the relationship is less complex. So one, they don't know enough about you to disqualify you. And two, they aren't emotionally invested. So if, take for example, well, I don't want to put so-and-so forward for this position because what if it's not perfect and they might get mad at me and then it damages our relationship. So there's more complexity the closer someone is to you as a connection. The broader ties, they don't have that complexity. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when it comes to landing a job, it's so-and-so told so-and-so who heard of. So it's like third remove. These people have no idea who you are. But it's great, and that's how it works.
It is. Yeah. And I think we take that for granted. So when you're talking about something like LinkedIn, for example, it's a great opportunity to have those loose ties because the world is at your fingertips. And to your point, you don't know who knows somebody else and when you might be able to help them or they might be able to help you. So I think this is just a phenomenal opportunity and time in technology where all of these opportunities to connect with people are at our fingertips. So don't waste it. It's there. The opportunity for you is there. You just have to, we keep saying it again and again, you have to be intentional about it.
Right. You have to make the time, go look at your network, see who they know, look at their contacts, see who they know, see if you can get introduced, particularly if you're considering a career pivot, career shift. Sometimes they may know someone in that area or a company that you're interested in. It doesn't hurt to reach out. And by the way, of course, those of you tuning in, I highly encourage you not to reach out in the give me a job, reach out in terms of, oh, I'm interested to know more about you, how I can help you, and be prepared to follow up on that. So what questions do you have? Those of you who are tuning in to the Career Coffee Chat show, what questions do you have about building relationships virtually? I'd love to answer them. What roadblocks have you run up against? What challenges do you have? What are you facing right now? For some, I know that one young lady shared, she said, oh, can you cover this? She's brand new in her job during COVID. She's never met any of her workmates, any of her colleagues. She's never met them in person. And she's trying to build relationships. So she's brand new in the organization, trying to build relationships. Chris, what advice do you have for this young person?
I go back to the coffee chat idea. So who is it that you can get to know through a cup of coffee? Virtual, of course. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to that question you asked earlier. So can she ask her team members or her manager, who is it that you know that I should know? And get them to make an introduction to the other person and then set up a 15-minute coffee chat. That's not a ton of time for somebody to invest, and come prepared with questions. So what is it that you want to know about them? It's probably, tell me about your time in the company. How does your work impact the organization? And maybe how does our work, what my team does and your team does, how does that intersect? You can make them longer. I wouldn't do any longer than 20 or 30 minutes because, again, it's just a quick connect coffee chat. But then at the end, I'd go back to your question and maybe ask that person, who is it that you know that you think I should know? And that's where you can start taking these names down and being really intentional. Maybe you have a goal of once a week. You reach out to somebody or have a coffee chat once a week. I think that would be a phenomenal project for anybody. And I think it's really leveraging your relationship with your manager and your team to help you in that quest and let them know, I'm looking to learn more about the organization and build my network here at this company. Here's what I really need from you is some ideas. Who do you know that I should know? I love that question, Erin. I keep saying that question over and over again, but I think
it's a great question.
It's
it's a $1 million question.
It is.
So let me know what questions you have. Those of you tuning in, participating today in the Career Coffee Chat show, what questions do you have about building your network? I know one of the popular questions I get most frequently is, what do I say? Particularly when they're reaching out to someone they've never met. They're networking. It's not at their company, so they don't really have a quote unquote, work reason to reach out. Oh, I need this report. I've heard that you're the person, blah, 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 blah. Right? No reason for that, but they're just reaching out to somebody, what we call cold connecting. What do they say? And here it is. We take this for granted.
Yeah.
You and I, we take it for granted. We just run off on the fly and figure it out. We'll be all right. But for many people, this is a big roadblock. They stop right there. They're just like, I don't know what to say. And there's a fear of judgment. So first of all, I would like all of you, if you get that feeling and what are they going to think of me, try to remove the fear of judgment, because it will mess up anything you were going to say, and you also overanalyze the heck out of it before you even press the send button. So Chris, what tips, ideas, tricks, what's worked for you when it comes to cold connecting, not inside the organization, but outside of the organization?
It goes back to what you were chatting about earlier in building bridges. So it really, I never look at any connection as a cold connection unless I truly know nothing about that person. But why am I actually trying to connect with them? And that's what I keep going back to. I wouldn't just randomly pick somebody on LinkedIn. I wouldn't close my eyes and pick a person, or on Twitter or elsewhere. There's some reason that I'm looking to make that connection. So if I stop for a moment and think about, why am I trying to make that connection? What is it about them, what they do, that I wanted to get to know? And if your first answer is, well, I'm looking to get a job, dig a little bit deeper. So this isn't about, I need to know them because they'll help me get a job. It's, what is it about what they do, who they are, what they've shared, that I want to know more about, that we can then start to build a relationship. So if it's LinkedIn or any other social network, what are some things that they have done, shared, whether it's a podcast or it's an article they've written or an article that they've shared, that have made you go, that's really interesting. And that's where I start. I really start from a place of curiosity. And it's natural for me, but as I've sat and really sat with this, and people have asked me the same question, what do I say? I always ask, what is it about that person? Why am I trying to connect? And that leads me to, well, I saw this post or this podcast, and it's how I've met other people across the globe. I've seen something they've posted. I'm like, well, that's really interesting. I'd like to know more. And it's as simple as that. But I like to come from it from a place of curiosity. I think is really helpful for me.
Yeah, and that's great advice, because most people, when they're thinking about building their influence, thinking about building their relationships, it's coming from a what's in it for me.
Right.
And we need to remove that. In order to actually build the relationship, we need to look at it from, okay, what value can I add to the relationships, and what's my why? So being very, very cognizant of the why, be able to express that, because you need to express that when you reach out to them in the first place. Reaching out to them and going, well, I saw you and I think I'd just like to connect, doesn't really, it's not a great opener. So what's your why? Why are you reaching out? People like to know what ignited that interest. And also like to say hi to Gerald and Leslie, just tuning in. Great to see you this morning. Just try to remove the fear of judgment. Also think about, okay, am I having this influence thing backwards? Most of us have it backwards. We're thinking about what's in it for me. We really need to think about, what's in it for the mutual relationship, or better yet, what value can I bring? And just really quickly, I'd like to share also that those people who focus on bringing value to others build more relationships and more influential than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is spot on. And you probably notice it in your own relationships and connections. Who do you connect with and stay connected with and or pass by in the virtual hallways the most? The people that there's this mutual give and take. And it's the people that are truly adding value and continuing to add value in your networks that you just keep feeding and connecting and staying connected with. It is so powerful. And it doesn't, I think the other thing is, and I think sometimes, Aaron, what happens is not just the fear, like, what am I going to say? But then again, they think it has to be so big and momentous.
Yes.
And it doesn't. It can be something as simple as, I really appreciated the article you shared. Here's why. I'd like to stay connected. I think we have mutual conversations or mutual interests in this area, and I'd love to share perspectives with you. Simple. Really, really simple. So don't make it to be, it doesn't have to be a, 10 paragraphs introduction. It can simply be a click on a LinkedIn. And in fact, I think when On connected us, it was like 3 sentences. And that was it. And then there was a couple sentences back and forth. And I think I was using the word connect way too much in that connection request.
Yes, but we can overthink. I mean, how many ways can we say that? Connect, touch base. I mean,
yes, that's right.
Words in our repertoire here. English language needs to come up with more words. We need more words for this. But yes, I mean, it really. What's interesting is the more significance we give something, anything. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be anything, from interviews to going to a Zoom meeting or having presented at the town hall. Doesn't matter. If we give it significance, it suddenly becomes much harder to do, because our brain starts actually building up roadblocks instead of facilitating, because we're telling our limbic part of our brain that this is we might die. So we need to let our limbic brain know that we're not going to die, and it's going to be okay, and it's just a in-mail or whatever. So Alan has a great question here. He says, the challenge I have is when I'm trying to reach the hiring manager, director, GM, etc., my response rate is very low, maybe 1 out of 15. Actually, Alan, that's pretty good. I'm sending a personal note. Then most of them are not willing to talk outside of LinkedIn. I start building relationships, but then I'm stuck there. Well, to be fair, Alan and Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts. When it comes to directors, general managers, CEOs, and that sort of thing, their time is finite. I know, because I coach quite a few of them. And even getting time to coach is difficult. Just their time is finite. So the fact that you're getting actually 1 out of 15 responses is not bad. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It is really tricky, and getting a response at all, I think, is great. But when you are trying to engage in those, especially when you're talking about hiring managers or above, time is so precious to all of them, and they are they are really truly busy. I don't take it as personally. I don't take it as it's something about me. It's just, there's not enough hours in the day. So I think it goes back to, though, I'll just keep flipping back to the curiosity. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And why are you trying to make a deeper connection? And is there somebody that maybe knows this person that can continue or further that connection for you? So take a step back and really think about, okay, really, why am I trying to make this connection? And what is it, or who might I know that maybe can help facilitate this connection? But time is tough. That's a toughie. And I would agree, Aaron, a lot of it has to do with time and the amount of connections that people are trying to make, especially if you're talking about hiring managers. They're probably getting a lot of different connections, and they have to pick and choose. And they may say, I can't engage with anybody just due to time constraints.
And to know that some companies, not all of them for certain, but some companies do put constraints on their employees to whether they can actually engage on LinkedIn. So there is that.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. Depends on what organization or type of industry you're going into. But in your case, Alan, 1 hour 15 actually isn't bad at all. And I would encourage you, for those people who are engaging with you at that level, and don't give up, be
Right.
intentional, and also give it space. So give a little bit of space between times you reach out. And then when you do reach out, bring something of value. And over time, this is one thing about the virtual space. It does take a little bit longer to build relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and it still does happen. Just give yourself some space and grace for that to happen. And that's why we need to be just a little bit more intentional and less happenstance about it. We got a great question here from Gail as well. Gail Landry, she says, challenge for me has been strategically connecting on LinkedIn. I see an open position at a company, I'll reach out to the job poster. If no job poster, then I start looking for financial people, she's in finance, and expressing the interest to connect with them and discussing their company or their values or why they chose to work there. I do get some responses, but it's oftentimes too late to even be involved in the position. So why would someone not reach out sooner if they already know there is an open position? Well, quite frankly, Gail, they may or may not even know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And also know that, put yourself in their shoes when, let's just say currently you're in transition, but when you are engaged in the workplace, there are workplace demands on your time. And that leaves less time for things like connecting with people on LinkedIn. So don't take it personally. I know it's challenging, and please don't give up. And know this, just because that position may have sailed, that ship may have sailed, it doesn't mean that that's the last position or opportunity at that organization.
Exactly.
So even though the timing was off,
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful thing about building networks and relationships is it's a long-term game.
Exactly. I was going to say something similar as that opportunity may have passed, but there may be future opportunities. So what's that relationship that you can continue building? And I find that a lot of people will drop the relationship or drop the connection because, well, that position is no longer open. So, but it must have been valuable if you're talking about, again, if you're in finance and you're reaching out to some other financial people, that can be a great connection to have, even if no other position opens up in that company, because you get to share perspectives with that person in your area of interest or your industry. So, and you never know, that may pay off. To your point, it's a longer game. It may pay off in the long run, whether it's at that organization or a future one. So I agree, it's time is a constraint for everybody, but I think of it as an opportunity. How can I lean into that opportunity and make the most of it, bring something of value, share something, take a look at what they're sharing, and continue the relationship and continue building the relationship, even though that opportunity of the job has passed.
Yes, and in fact, I wrote the article I have coming out this coming week. I'm doing a career growth series on my blog. So everything from day one, hey, you thought about growing your career, good for you. This is what you need to know, all the way up to finding a job, navigating, doing all that. So everything, full career growth playbook. So the one that I have coming out, I talk about, networking is so important for your career growth and so important for you as a professional and your mental health, quite frankly. It has multiple different benefits. And know this, it is not a one and done. And it's not instant gratification. It's not instant coffee. It's not even instant oatmeal or tea. It's not any of these things. In fact, if you were looking for a job, yes, you should network, and just don't expect it to be coughing up opportunities left and right, because it's not how it works. It takes time. And then inevitably, every single time it is someone I talk to about leaving or looking for opportunities to talk to someone else, and it takes time for that to happen. So if you're in a hurry, make sure your resume and LinkedIn is on point. And don't forget your network, but just know that it's just not a.
No, and you need to be consistent too. So if you are really focused on building relationships and building your network, and then you drop off and no one hears from you for months, that can be detrimental. So you have to really do, I always love to call it care and feeding of your network. What are you giving? What are you adding? Where are you adding value? Are you making new connections? Are you continuing to nurture those relationships? So it shouldn't be stagnant. It really shouldn't. And to your point, Erin, this is not something that's instantaneous.
Right.
So don't look at, that time has passed as a doors closing. It's actually an opportunity for a new connection and to continue building that relationship. And the other thing is, we're all in this great experiment where a lot of people are now working from home. So we are all really relying on digital tools. So this is the time to really embrace them. Because a lot of people, there's very few, if any, face-to-face networking opportunities. There are so many things happening virtually, not just on LinkedIn, but you may see some meetups or some masterminds. Leverage this time. This is a great opportunity to really build those digital networking skills, whether it's on LinkedIn or in some other platform. Take advantage of it.
And Gerald has a really good point. He says, imagine someone knocks on your front door.
Yeah.
We would run away, Gerald, and put on a mask.
Well, maybe.
Okay, so in all seriousness, he said, what would make you talk to them or not talk to them? Start with that perspective and see what works for you as a practice with others. So that's a great point, Gerald. Thank you for sharing that. You're a motivation and inspiration. I like that a lot. So if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments. We'll be happy to get to those. We want to make sure that we get any closing comments or anything you have before we wrap up the show. And it's been a great conversation with you, Chris. It reinforced some of the things I knew and also learned a lot of really great other pointers about how to build those tiny moments. Because quite frankly, that's where I was kind of like scratching my head going, I was telling people, well, okay, so one way to do it would be like to have a phone call because we have these things, and I know they're like a computer, but they do have an app on it. It's got a phone.
There's a phone.
You can call people. Just saying. So if it's just a one-on-one conversation,
Yep.
use your phone.
Exactly. We forget about it. We do.
And one reason why is not everyone performs their best when they're staring at a camera.
Right. Yeah, it kind of goes back to, and I want to piggyback, I think it was Charles who chatted in about the front door. And if not, I apologize. I got the wrong name. But you have to also experiment with what works for you. So as you're thinking about what would you say to that person or what, to start the conversation, it looks different for every person. Some people are more comfortable with the phone. Here's my phone. It's nearby. Some people are comfortable with the video chat. Some people are comfortable with text or Slack or LinkedIn messaging or art. So just what I do and what Erin does and what others do, you can use it as a jumping off point, but you have to find what works for you. And that's really important. And it doesn't all have to be all in on one thing. You can have a phone conversations with some people, Zoom meetings with other people, Slack conversation. Just find the combination that works for you.
And sometimes it's different for, as Chris mentioned, it's different for different people and for different generations too. Not that is a stamp. If you are of X generation, you do this, but by and large, someone in, let's just say, generation, I think it's X that I'm in.
I think I'm in the same one.
The one that nobody talks about.
Aren't we the forgotten generation? I think we are.
So,
yes.
Hey, we're still here. Yeah, so we're good. Thanks for thinking about us. Never. So we like email. Kind of too much, actually. We're the email generation. We love to email the heck out of everybody and copy everybody on everything. So
And I'm the complete opposite. I am all about instant message.
She just transferred that over to instant message.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. I am using instant message as my email.
Whatever we do, it tends to be, not always, but sometimes to the phone, and it's easier for us to also grab a hold of text messaging as well.
Yep.
So, and if you identify with being a millennial and that strata, then perhaps you like text messaging over other things, and there's Snapchat, and there's all a host of other different ways to communicate with people. So meet people at their bus stop.
Yes.
And that's tremendously helpful. Alan also shared, he said they watch lots of branding videos and everyone's talking about branding. I have a hard time doing it. Do I need to hire marketing people? Alan, no, a little off topic, but related, because whatever you do, and I mean everything you do, is your brand. Everything. So as an individual, when we think about brands, hashtag brand, we're thinking about the logo over here, oops, wrong direction, that way. Logo over there in the corner. We think about logos, we think about, colors, we think about, about company things. It's not really about that. When you're talking about our personal professional brand, it's what are you known for? What is your perception? What is other people's perception of you? That is your brand. So when you think about branding, Alan, for you, I would encourage you to focus on what do you want to be known for, and then exemplifying that.
Agree, 100%.
And doesn't require a marketing person, although we do know someone who can help you. Alan will be happy to help you.
We can make that connection for you.
Right, exactly. And it won't be hard either, Alan. We'll make it happen. So Gerald also mentioned most of my best connections have been the result of bringing two other people together and mutual value. Absolutely, the power of paying it forward. So he really may or may not get anything out of it, but they always remember him. And then the law of reciprocity kicks in case you're wondering what that is. They are feeling indebted to you, and they're more likely to do you a favor later on, which is very important. Chris, do you have any other words of wisdom, golden nuggets, pearls of opportunity you would like to give to our lovely participants today?
Well, I'll start with, it is coming from a place of generosity. So I love how we were just kind of, finishing that last point there. It really is. What do you have to give? But what I would encourage everybody to do is really take a look at what you're doing currently, whether it's how you engage on LinkedIn or, externally, or it's how you connect with people internally in your organization, and find what are those moments that you can leverage to make a connection. Whether it's an opportunity at the start of a meeting to have some personal check-ins, or you schedule time in your day, either to connect with people externally or internally, just to check out what they're sharing, to add a comment, to wave hi to somebody in the virtual hallway. So just do a quick audit of what you're currently doing and just jot down some thoughts. What are those moments that you can take advantage of to start to build relationships, again, from a place of generosity?
Absolutely. And now is a great time to start if you have been a little slack, not saying slacks like, anyway, you know what I mean, lackadaisical, ignoring your network. You've been ignoring your network a little bit. Now is a great time to re-engage, because the holidays are a wonderful reason to reach out to people and a wonderful way to get that conversation rekindled. I know that I have to, true story, I have to actually canvas my network and understand, okay, I have different group types. So I have my close network, I have influencers, I have my clients, I have different group networks with friends and family. And then I set a schedule when and how I will reach out to them. Yes, I know it sounds way too organized for anybody, one human being, but that is what I have to do, because I know that time goes,
it does.
And then all of a sudden, it's 6 months and I haven't talked to whoever it is.
You're being intentional about it. And that's what it is. If you are not going to be seeing people, again, going back to the workplace, you're not walking into the building together, or you're not meeting people incidentally in networking events that you used to go to, those visual social cues, those are gone right now, at least. So what is it that you need to do? Erin needs to schedule that out. I do a little bit of something similar. Probably not as complex as that, but I'll pick a month and I'll be like, all right, I want to connect with these 5 people. And then that just goes into my goal planning for the week. And it's just being intentional. Mm-hmm. And I think I was sharing this with you, Aaron, earlier. Once you start getting in this habit of doing it, it really becomes second nature. It does.
It really does. Practice makes perfect. So, Gail, even though maybe some of those connections didn't bear fruit right away, practice makes perfect. And the more you do it, the better you will become. Chris, it's been a great pleasure having you on the Career Coffee Chat show today. I've enjoyed this conversation so much and learned so much from you. It's been wonderful. And thank you for all of you who are tuning in and will tune in later. If you do watch the replay, please feel free to pop your comments in the chat. I will see them. We will answer them. We're happy to help you. It's all about elevating your career. And speaking of elevating your career, my Elevate Your Career for More Impact and Income book is launching January 27th. Yay! Yay! I'll talk about that for a little while longer. If you want to learn more about that, go to coachyurban.com right here and go to books. Click the launch button, become part of the launch party. There'll be tons of free giveaways, free coaching, and free books. And all other cool prizes and gifts. We'll have a launch day party, the whole 9 yards. And also, don't forget the Career Coffee Chat podcast is live on tons of channels, including Amazon. Who knew? So, Chris, it's been a great pleasure having you on. And for all of you tuning in, ta-ta for now.